Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Walker from Living Resilience. It's a little organization on the interwebs, and we have a number of different aspects that make up this Living Resilience organization. And I'm here to tell you about those offerings, those different aspects of this organization, and especially the new changes, the new elements that'll be offered soon this year, in this new year of 2024. So, really pleased to be offering something that to me is very new, very current, and quite important, just in the way I look at the world and what motivates me to put together this kind of material for us all. But let me tell you a little bit about living resilience. Like, what is the purpose of this organization? So, the purpose of living resilience is providing transformative support, resources, and guidance to the collapse aware and collapse acceptant communities. There are a few words in there that really carry a lot of meaning for me, and I won't bore you too much with a rabbit hole deep dive into each of those words, but the ones we can kind of carry with us in this particular brief video is transformative. Um, that's something that really the times are calling for extraordinary shifts and changes in our world. And in fact, I've lost count of the number of experts in the various fields of climate change or species extinction or the human-caused collapse of both Earth systems or human systems. Every one of those experts that I've been listening to for years now have been calling for a radical shift, a transformation of how we think in order to address the problems or, heaven forbid, the predicaments that we face. So this body of work is meant to be a way to increase each of our capacities to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors. And it seems like we are in a time of perpetual increase in the scale of stressors that we are engaging with, both on the very personal and individual level and all the way out to the global level. So our work is again to provide support and resources and practices for people who find themselves, who've chosen to place themselves on the continuum that implies we are aware that there are things at a global scale, all the way down to the most intimate scale, that are threatening at an existential level and can be quite disturbing, can be quite disruptive to our own capacity to be present. So let's talk about it a little bit. A new addition in this last year in particular has been the addition of going from collapse aware to collapse acceptant. And I can thank Karen and Jordan Perry and their partnership with the late Michael Dowd in really bringing that distinction to the forefront of this conversation of how shall we comport ourselves in these extraordinary times. So I've integrated major pieces of each work from each of them in the coursework that we offer here in the online community space that we have a Mighty Networks platform, and we've created a living resilience online community space. So it's there that our online courses live. the transformative events and online live interviews and courses that we will do in 2024. These are all going to be located in or accessible through that Living Resilience online community space. This might be a good time to mention that there are a few other pieces that are not necessarily living right there in the community space, but they are certainly related. One of them that's been going on for about 9 years now is my YouTube channel podcast called The Poetry of Predicament. And one thing I can tell you is that I've been committed all these years to bring the most vital and alive voices that I can find that have something to contribute to the conversation that I just mentioned. How can we expand our capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors? Another way of saying that is, how can we be of service to the people we love in the midst of these extraordinary circumstances, these often very stressful circumstances? These are very large skill sets that I'm talking about. I'm just breezing through these sentences, but each of them implies a pretty considerable skill set to be learned or to be practiced. You'll find if you decide to join us in any part of this work, you'll soon find out we're pretty heavy on the practice piece. It doesn't mean you have to do it, and it doesn't mean that, in fact, you're the one who's going to come up with whatever practices you find useful or you see as needed in your life. It is an extraordinary opportunity, these practices, to come together with people who all that we share. There can be quite a diverse group of people that might circle up for any of our online support groups. From the most casual of them, the drop-in support group that's called safecircle, every Tuesday night, 6 to 7:30 Pacific time. That is an exceptionally diverse crowd. There's some folks who've been coming as regulars for years now, and almost every week there are new people who have never been there before and might be brand new to the entire conversation of being collapse aware or collapse acceptant. I should mention here, just because this is a perfect example, this Safe Circle group and this offering, you will be able to find a link in the show notes below that if you follow that link and sign up with your name and your email address, I'd be happy to send you a weekly invitation the day before the Safe Circle call itself. And that will always be the same link, Zoom link for the Zoom call. And it will also include a couple of videos that will hopefully spark or prompt your engagement in the call the next night. Or at the very least, you might find some threads of that might prompt a deep dive of some kind or another for in your own life, in your own daily exploration. So that's the Safe Circle call. And everything I'll be mentioning will also have a link like the Safe Circle sign up down below, so that you can, if you're interested, you can just click on that and get hooked up with that particular aspect of this work. Let me speak about another one that's actually coming up and with a specific timeline coming up. We've for going on 2 years now, have had a book club here in the Living Resilience online community space. And that book club usually runs for about 7 or 8 weeks or so, perhaps a bit longer, depending on how long the book is, how many chapters. And we get together for an hour and a half each week for, again, that's 6 to 8 weeks or so. That'll be on Saturday mornings from 7:30 to 9 o'clock Pacific time. And again, if you sign up for this Living Resilience online community space and you go in and you then sign up for the book club, you will then be connected with and have all the information that you need, the links to get to the event each Saturday morning, support materials that you may find useful in parallel with the reading of the book itself. And we will be recording those weekly sessions on Saturdays so that if you can't make it on a given Saturday, you'll be able to watch the recordings of what we go through, the conversations that we have, and the explorations we do about the book of this particular series. This book in this series is a book from one of the greatest poets alive, in my estimation, a man named Mark Nepo from here in the USA. And his book is Surviving Storms. Surviving Storms. And those of you who've been in the book club recently, you will know that our most recent book was Eye of the Storm from Deep Adaptation volunteer coordinator Terry LePage. And I was so impressed with that particular book, which is really an introduction, a lovely introduction to how to engage with, how to get involved with this collapse-aware conversation. And it's obviously built for someone who's brand new to the conversation, but I found it so endearing, so useful, so approachable that I made it into a course here in the Living Resilience community space. It is called Learning to Live in Collapse. So again, that link will be down below in the show notes. And that's a separate book. And that's something that you would do in your own self-paced fashion. But it is quite remarkable in a number of ways. It's Terry's writing, which is in itself remarkable and great. She's included the writing and excerpts from so many other people who shared with her to help bring that book together. And then it's offered, if you like audiobooks, it's read in an informal way by the late Michael Dowd, who those of you who've been around the collapse-aware conversation for a while will immediately recognize Michael Dowd's name and his influence, his extraordinary influence on these vitally important conversations for many years now. He will be greatly missed by us all. So in any case, Michael Dowd read, as one of the last things he did while he was alive, read Terry LePage's Eye of the Storm. So if you decide that that's something that you'd like to participate in at your own speed in the Living Resilience online community space, follow that link that's down below in the show notes, and off you go. There's one more course that I'd like to suggest that any new person, whether you've been around this conversation for a long time or you're brand new to it, I would strongly recommend that you jump into another self-paced course in the Living Resilience online community space called Collateral Beauty. That's the official introductory course for this work. It's a way to find out some of the shared language we use together in our various support group settings and so on. I've really worked long and hard to refine and evolve the quality and the content of each of our courses, but especially this intro course. What started out as a bloated offering 8 years ago when we first put our first introductory courses together. They were just, by my own admission, they were just far too full of content, too many hours of videos and hours of reading and so on. And I found it to be too much, and the vast majority of our participants found it to be too much. So it's been every year kind of a weight reduction program for each of our courses online courses. You'll find one if you're interested in the name of being as embodied and experiential a learning environment as possible. We've got a meditation course called the Meditation and Implicit Senses Training, the MIST training. And that is also right in that same list, that same menu in the Living Resilience online community space that I mentioned before. And I think very soon, if you did the Collateral Beauty course and then possibly started to engage with that MIST course, you'll really get a sense of how important we have found it to be engaged with our bodies in a world that we have become primarily disconnected from our bodies. We've become very mental creatures with one another. And then on top of that, we have become disengaged from one another directly by doing most of our relating with one another through, of course, our phones. So there are a few underlying commitments here that we hope you will find valuable as well. One of them I've just been mentioning, this embodiment, this experiential leaning in how we present the work is something that helps make it far more engaging, far more attractive for our system to be able to feel like we're connected, like this is a meaningful experience, like one in which we could possibly reconnect with the aspects of our lives that really matter most to us, the relationships that we have, perhaps with our family and loved ones, how to be more creative from our core, from a more movement and feeling body based engagement rather than a mental engagement, and one in which we are judgment based, and you get the idea. So there's one piece that I would like to add before I wrap this particular introduction to the 2024 offerings of Living Resilience. I'd like to give you just a taste of some of the speaking of this poet that I mentioned, whose book we're going to be reading in the book club coming up in the beginning in February. Mark Nepo and his book Surviving Storms. He has done a number of interviews around this material, and there's just a sweet little moment from one of those interviews he's done recently that really speaks to something. I've mentioned the very dear, now departed buddy, Michael Dowd. He's been around the block with regard to content curation and content creation in this space. And he asked me about a year ago, Dean, what exactly do you do in this work of living resilience? I don't really get it. What do you do? How's it different than all the other offerings that are going on these days? And it's funny. I never did. I was just starting to formulate a solid response to him when he died. So I won't be able to give him the response that I would have liked. But I'd like to offer that response to you all to have you understand just a bit more of why this leaning on the experiential, why this leaning on embodiment, why this extraordinary focus on and emphasis on practice based learning and practice based group support group dynamics. And we've just found it to be the most effective way for a person to engage in such a way that they can actually expand their capacity to be present in the face of larger and larger stressors. It's it might not make sense straight away, but it certainly will if you come and join us in virtually any of the courses that I've just been talking about, and especially if you'll join us in some of our support groups on a Zoom call. And hopefully in 2024, we'll start to fire up some live in-person trainings as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to include some wise words from Mark Nepo, very fine poet. And he also has a gift for articulating how we might improve our chances of being more and more present, more and more of service to the people we love, even in stressful times. And one of the ways he describes this process, this possible evolution in ourselves, is to compare us to trees. And we will be starting up this excerpt from an interview in which he's asserting that if we see ourselves as trees, really how we've ended up in this modern culture is that we've become trees that have very little substance to us. Like if a storm came through, we'd get blown over. We don't have much of a root, much of a context for living if we saw ourselves as trees. We don't have much in the way of a sturdiness to the trunk. If I'm a tree in this, and I'm the average person in this extraordinarily crazy world that we're living in, this intentionally disrupted center world, we could easily say that we don't have much in the way of roots. We don't have much in the way of the stability that would be provided by a robust trunk. And he has this crafty way of presenting this as just a thought experiment, and somehow weaving in how practices are what we could call on to deepen those roots, to expand and stabilize that trunk, that make us far more functional as human beings in this daily living that we're doing. So thank you for sitting through this introduction to this work. I hope there's some piece of it that you found interesting, or that you'll give it a try, give it a taste. If you have any questions at all, how to contact me with any questions that you have is also down there in the show notes. So please enjoy a few comments about growing more robust trees from Mark Nepo. Again, thanks for sitting.
Following our heart. I think we have to start, and I recommend this for people who are listening, start very near yourself. Give your full attention to the near. I mean, I'm in my study. There's a tree out here. I always see, give your full attention to whatever is before you, holding nothing back until it becomes your teacher. And when you have an experience, even if it's a moment that you know is real, that you know is glowing, that you know is grounded, You don't need to question it, build on it. Okay, I know what that feels like. So that when you encounter another moment, you go, oh, wait, I can add this fundamental moment to the other one I felt. And then we start to have an experiential basis for what we know to be true. I think one of the things that's plaguing, I've been thinking about this a lot, and certainly in America, but I'm sure it's all over the world, this incredible, um, uh, stridency and polarization and all these, people who are into alternative realities and what's true, what's not. And, I've really been thinking about this because it's puzzling. But, with all the technology and the alternate realities and virtual reality and social media and all these things, and on the other side, on the inside, I think we have a whole group of humanity that has lost their direct connection to life. And without that, we're lost. We can call, so like you're standing on the ground, you're breathing, so am I. So those are facts.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about what does that mean? What's our interpretation of it? All of that. But the grounded experience is, like you take a like a redwood tree, the great redwoods in America, the West Coast. Um, and in India, there's the Nayagradha tree, which is a similar enormous tree. Well, maybe in a hurricane or a tornado or a monsoon, a tree like that could be uprooted. Probably not. Could be damaged, but probably not. And why? Because their roots are deep and their trunks are wide. That's why we need an inner practice. That's why we need to have a direct connection with life so we can survive the storms of our day.